I didn't realize how quiet betrayal could be until the night my wife didn't come home. No argument, no warning, no slammed door, just an empty house and a phone that wouldn't ring. The next morning, I got a message from her. Not an apology, not an explanation, just this: "I'm safe. Don't call. Don't look for me. I'm done." That's how 8 years of marriage ended. 4 sentences, and a silence so loud it felt like it was crushing my chest. I need to explain who I was before that night, because it matters. I wasn't a suspicious husband. I didn't track locations, I didn't check messages, I didn't ask where she was every hour. I believed trust was shown by giving space, not by demanding proof. My name is Callum Reed. I'm 38. I work in logistics outside Manchester. It's not a dream job, but it's stable, predictable. I liked predictable. My wife, Sienna, was the opposite. Sharp, ambitious, always thinking 3 steps ahead. She worked in marketing for a fintech company in the city, the kind of place where people talked fast and dressed like time itself was expensive. When she walked into a room, people noticed. I used to feel proud standing next to her. We'd been married 7 years, together for 9. From the outside, our life looked solid. A modest house we renovated slowly, weekend grocery runs, occasional dinners with friends, photos that made us look like a couple who had it figured out. Inside, things were quieter. Not unhappy, just controlled. Sienna didn't like emotional conversations. If something bothered her, she didn't explode, she withdrew. She'd go calm, distant, practical. I told myself that was just her way of coping. I learned to let things go before they became problems. I thought that was maturity. The night she didn't come home was a Thursday. I remember because I got home around 7, tired but relieved the week was almost over. The house was dark, no music, no TV, no sign she'd been there. I cooked something simple and ate standing at the counter, scrolling my phone. No messages. At 8:15 I called her again. Same result. By 9 I texted, "Everything okay?" By 10 I called her office line, voicemail. That was when the unease started to creep in. Not panic, just a tightness in my chest I couldn't shake. I sat on the sofa staring at the front door every time headlights passed across the wall, half expecting the sound of her key in the lock. Midnight came, then 1, then 2. I didn't sleep. Every small noise made me look up. The fridge kicking on, a car passing. My own breathing sounded too loud in the silence. Somewhere around 4 in the morning, I started getting angry at myself for being afraid. She was an adult, independent, strong. There had to be a reasonable explanation. Still, I opened my laptop and searched local hospital admissions like a fool, convincing myself I was being cautious, not desperate. When morning came, the house looked exactly the same as it had the night before. That made it worse. Her mug was still in the sink. Her coat wasn't on the hook. Her car wasn't in the driveway. At 8:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen, and my stomach dropped. The message was short, clean, cold. "I'm safe. Don't call. Don't come looking. I'm done. I'll contact you when I'm ready." I read it 3 times, waiting for my brain to catch up. I called immediately. Blocked. I texted. Not delivered. I sat down on the edge of the sofa and stared at the wall, feeling strangely delayed, like the shock hadn't fully arrived yet. Then I stood up and started checking things. Drawers. The wardrobe. Her passport was gone. Her laptop was gone. A suitcase was missing. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an impulsive decision. This was planned. I called Julian Mercer, a friend of hers from work. He'd been around us often the last couple of years. Barbecues, dinners, casual conversations on our sofa. He answered on the 3rd ring, sounding calm. Too calm. When I told him Sienna hadn't come home, he didn't sound surprised. He asked if I was sure she was okay, like he already knew the answer. That was the first moment something felt wrong. After the call ended, I stood alone in the kitchen and felt a thought form in my chest, heavy and unwelcome. If my wife had planned her disappearance, then she hadn't done it alone. And that was when I realized this wasn't just a story about a woman leaving a marriage. It was the beginning of something far darker.
The worst part about being left without answers isn't the loneliness. It's the way your mind starts filling in the blanks on its own. By the second day, the shock had worn off. What replaced it was something sharper, a constant, buzzing awareness that nothing about this felt accidental. Sienna didn't just leave, she exited. That morning, I checked our front door camera out of habit, not expecting anything. Then I saw her. The timestamp said 6:18 a.m. She stood at the door with her hood up, shoulders tight, like she didn't want to be seen. She didn't knock, she didn't use her key. She bent down, slid something through the letterbox, and walked away quickly. I watched the clip 3 times before I moved. Inside, on the floor, was a thin envelope. I sat down before opening it because my hands were already shaking. Inside was a single page. "Do not contact me. Do not follow me. Any communication will go through legal channels. Respect my decision." It didn't sound like her. It sounded like someone trying to sound detached. And then I noticed something else. A folded receipt. Hotel, city center, 2 nights. The name on it wasn't hers. It was Julian Mercer. My chest went tight so fast I had to put the paper down. I stared at the name, hoping it would blur into something else. It didn't. I didn't call Julian right away. I paced the house. I made coffee I didn't drink. I kept replaying every conversation I'd ever had with him, every time he'd laughed too easily, every moment he seemed just a little too familiar with my wife. When I finally called him, he answered like nothing was wrong. I told him about the envelope, about the note. Then I said quietly, there was a hotel receipt inside. It had your name on it. Silence. Not confusion, not shock. Silence. He tried to recover quickly, said it must be a mistake, said I was overthinking, but his voice had changed. He wasn't calm anymore. He was careful. When I asked him where Sienna was, he said he didn't know. It was a lie. I could feel it in my bones. That night, I checked our finances properly for the first time in years, not because I was controlling, because I was scared. What I found made my stomach drop. Small transfers, regular, quiet, always to the same unknown account. Nothing dramatic on its own, but together they told a story. Money had been moving long before she left, and in the week before she disappeared, the amounts were bigger, like preparation. I barely slept. My head replayed moments I'd ignored. Late nights she brushed off, phone calls she took in other rooms, the way she'd smile at messages she never shared. On Tuesday, I went back to work because staying home felt unbearable. During lunch, I told a colleague and close friend, Talia, the basics. She listened without interrupting. When I mentioned Julian, her expression changed. She told me something she'd heard through a family connection, about a man matching Julian's description, bringing the same woman into a hotel repeatedly, always discreet, always careful. It wasn't proof, but it was enough. That night, I called a private investigator, not because I wanted revenge, because I needed reality. When the investigator told me it would take a week or more, I felt oddly relieved. At least something was moving. The days that followed were slow and heavy. Every hour felt stretched. Sienna didn't reach out again. Julian went silent. By the time the investigator finally said, "We need to meet," I already knew one thing for certain. Whatever truth was coming, it was going to hurt worse than not knowing. And I was right. When I sat down across from the investigator, I knew my life was about to split into 2 versions.
The one where I still believed my marriage had been real, and the one where I couldn't pretend anymore. He slid a thick envelope across the table. "You should take your time," he said. I opened it anyway. The first photo showed Sienna outside a hotel in the city. She was smiling, not a polite smile, a relaxed one, the kind I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. Standing beside her was Julian. His hand rested at her waist like it belonged there. Her body leaned into his without hesitation. I flipped to the next photo, then the next. Every picture confirmed what my mind had already accepted, but my heart was still resisting. They weren't hiding well. They weren't even trying anymore. The investigator spoke quietly, explaining timelines, dates, repeated meetings. It had been going on for months, not weeks, months. Then he showed me something worse. Messages. Conversations that weren't just romantic, they were strategic. They talked about me like I was an obstacle, about timing, about money, about how to keep me distracted while things were finalized. I read one line over and over again. Once the divorce starts, he'll focus on that. He won't look too closely at the rest. I felt something in me shut down. This wasn't just betrayal, it was coordination. The investigator explained that money had been moved deliberately, carefully, in ways designed not to attract attention. He couldn't prove criminal intent yet, but the pattern was clear. They had been planning a future, and I wasn't part of it. I sat there longer than I realized, staring at evidence that turned my memories into lies. Every late night, every cold response, every "I'm just tired." I wasn't imagining distance. She was already gone. I asked one question. Did she ever hesitate? The investigator shook his head, not that I could see. That answer hurt more than anything else, because hesitation would have meant doubt, and doubt would have meant I still mattered. When I left that meeting, I didn't cry. I didn't feel dramatic rage. I felt something colder and clearer. Resolve. I contacted a lawyer that same day. I didn't threaten Sienna. I didn't confront Julian. I didn't send angry messages. I sent facts to the places that mattered. Her company, his partner, my solicitor. Within days, the ground started shifting under them. Sienna finally reached out. Her message wasn't angry, it was panicked. She said there had been confusion, that Julian had manipulated her, that she never meant to hurt me, but she never said she was sorry. Not really. Julian tried once too, one short message accusing me of making things worse than they needed to be. I blocked him, because by then I understood something important. People who plan betrayal don't collapse when confronted. They collapse when control is taken away, and control was slipping fast. I could feel it. Their silence had changed. Now it sounded like fear. The first voicemail from Sienna came late at night. Her voice didn't sound confident anymore. It sounded thin, strained, like someone trying to hold themselves together after the story they believed in collapsed. "Callum, please," she said, "I just need to explain. You don't understand what really happened." I listened once, then I sent it to my lawyer and deleted it from my phone. Not because I hated her, because I finally understood her. Over the next few days, the consequences started arriving one by one. Her company placed her on suspension pending investigation. Julian stopped showing up at work altogether. People who used to laugh with them at dinners suddenly went quiet. Phones stopped ringing. Invitations disappeared. Truth has a way of isolating the people who tried to control it.
Sienna showed up at the house a week later. I saw her through the door camera, standing where she used to wait for me with shopping bags or keys in her hand. She looked different, smaller, not physically, but like the certainty had drained out of her. She knocked softly at first, then harder. "Callum, please," she said, her voice breaking. "I just need to explain. You don't understand what really happened." I listened once, then I sent it to my lawyer and deleted it from my phone. Not because I hated her, because I finally understood her. Then her tone shifted. "You didn't have to destroy everything," she snapped. "You could have handled this privately." That was the moment everything became clear. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was angry she couldn't control the damage. I called the non-emergency line. When the police arrived, they asked her to leave and warned her not to return. She didn't look at me when she walked away. She looked at the house like it had betrayed her. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Evidence does that. There were no dramatic courtroom scenes, just paperwork, decisions, finality. Sienna tried to negotiate. She wanted time. She wanted compensation. She wanted space to transition. The judge didn't see it that way. The marriage ended cleanly. Assets were divided by law. The house remained mine. The story ended not with shouting, but with signatures. After everything was finalized, the silence in my life changed. It stopped feeling heavy. One evening I came home, made dinner, and realized I was sitting at the table again, not standing, not rushing, not avoiding the quiet, just sitting, breathing. A message came weeks later from someone I didn't expect, Julian's former partner. She thanked me for telling the truth, said it hurt, but it saved her years of lies. That message stayed with me longer than any apology ever could. As for Sienna, I don't know where she is now. I don't look, I don't ask. The pieces I hear through others feel distant, like news from a stranger. What I learned from all of this is simple, and it took me too long to understand. Some people don't leave because they're unhappy. They leave because they believe they deserve a better story, one where the damage they cause doesn't count. I'm not rebuilding my life loudly. I'm not rushing into something new to prove a point. I'm just living honestly now, and that's enough.